episode of Mighty Mods.
Now, I don't know what kind of car stereo you've got. It might be a factory system. It could be a full custom setup with 350-inch subs. You may even be lucky enough to have an AM radio. And I say lucky because I've been rolling with this. You see, my car's an import, so it didn't come with a stereo, and I thought this would be a great way of entertaining guests in my car. I was very wrong.
Get out!
Some of you might have seen Moog's efforts in episode 11 on how to install a car stereo.
You put it in here and as carefully as you can. There you go. Oh, look at that. Just be really careful about it.
I tried my hardest.
We suggest you don't watch that because today we're doing it properly.
There's lots of different options when it comes to head units, but we want something that's an all-in-one system, so we're putting in a Pioneer AVIC. You can watch movies, you can do music, it does navigation, and you can pair up to 5 phones to it as well. The last thing you want to be doing is losing points off your license for driving along talking on your phone, so if you can get a head unit that handles phones as well, it's the perfect choice. Dude, I don't actually understand what we meant to do with all that stuff.
And this is the fun part.
I like that bit.
Yeah, no, this is good.
You like that bit.
Most importantly, we're not going to be twisting and taping our connections, we're going to be soldering and heat shrinking everything. So, screwdrivers, soldering iron, a lighter, your heat shrink, and importantly, a multimeter, because we need to find out what wire does what, and that's the best way.
Disconnect the negative strap from your battery. This prevents blown fuses if you get something wrong. You're going to be moving the gear stick around to get access. Put your handbrake on to make sure your car isn't going to roll away.
Now the first job is to get rid of the old stereo, but because this car's a Japanese import, it didn't come with a stereo because the owner decided to keep it. But often what they do is they put these plates in here because they don't want the car to look ugly at the auction. So the job now is to get rid of all of this and then see what's behind the plate.
Most interior trim snaps together and some gentle persuasion will get it loose. Don't pry at it with screwdrivers or you'll leave marks everywhere.
Keep your screws somewhere safe if you want everything to go back together easily.
You might have to remove heater controls, storage buckets and other bits and pieces. They'll almost always be held in with easily accessible Phillips head screws.
Alright, let's see what we got. Headband, anti-constipation medication that might explain the hard suspension, a firecracker, and a mouse.
People reckon Australian delivered S15s and Jap spec S15s are the same, but I ask you this, would you find one of these in an Australian delivered S15? I would argue no.
Now this is the part of an install where most people freak out. You're presented with a couple of plugs with a bunch of wires on it, you have no idea what they do. Well, the best $15 you can spend is to go and get yourself a wiring harness adapter. That takes care of everything because it's all listed here to tell you what does what. Or you can do this.
Flick your multimeter onto volts DC and make sure your probe is solid. I mean you've got a solid earth on the probe.
Next, check each pin on the plug until you find a constant 12 volts. You'll need your battery connected for this. Turn your ignition to ACC, accessory, and then probe again, until you find 12 volts that turns on and off with your ignition switch. It's also worthwhile checking online for wiring diagrams. These can be found for free if you look carefully. Car-specific forums are a great place to start. The wires should follow a standard colour labelling system. Check your instructions to see what does what, then start soldering. Don't forget to put heat shrink on one end of the wire before you solder them together.
Marty's one-handed technique lives on, and he's good at soldering too.
So we've soldered in our constant power, our switched power, and our earth, front and rear speakers. That's as hard as it gets for your average head unit, but because of all the extra features on this AVIC, it's a little bit more complicated.
The AVIC comes with a GPS antenna, microphone, ECU speed sensor and handbrake switch. We need to run those wires through the dash to their appropriate spot.
We've almost finished our wiring, and with so much of it you can see why it's really important to solder and heat shrink.
The GPS antenna sits on a metal sticky back plate that needs to sit on the top of your dash with a direct line of sight to the spy satellites above. You may need to relocate rego and parking permits.
Rubber door sills can be a good place to hide wiring. Make sure it's not going to rub on any metal. If you're running wires under the driver's side of the dash, make sure it's tied up securely or your feet will get tangled up in it.
As I was watching you do the wiring, I salivated.
Are you hungry?
No, I was just getting excited.
Tie up any excess wiring and hide it in behind the head unit or up under the dash.
The AVIC controls your iPod as if you're holding it in your hand. Using this, we're going to have it sitting in the glove box.
Run your iPod connector through the glove box from behind the dash. You can also cut holes in the back of storage bins to have the connector hidden away.
You would draw a dick on that or something.
With everything connected, double check your power and earths and then plug in your head unit. Make sure you do this before you install it back into the dash in case you need to recheck your wiring.
In 100 meters, turn left.
Install the metal brackets onto the side of the head unit and then screw your dash back together. It sounds messy, but it's not as rude as it sounds.
This wire tells the AVIC when the handbrake's up, so it only lets you watch video while you're stopped or drifting.
A big thanks to Pioneer for supplying the head unit. Okay, so that's a rundown on how to install a head unit, and I don't think I'm going to be needing this anymore.
So even though the AVIC's got a ton of extra features, the process is basically the same for all head units.
So coming up next time, we're going to show you how to install speakers to replace them. We're going to show you how to do some sound deadening and also a sub install so you can rock the suburbs. Speaking of which, Martin, let's rock it. 1, 2, 3, 4.